first two said absolutely everything I was going to say. And you're then there thinking you've got another 5 minutes and you've got to think of something new. Here, it's the reverse. So I'm going to enjoy the fact that Pearl is coming afterwards and she's sitting there thinking, what's he going to say? What I just wanted to do a little bit, because first of all, to say the DAIN project is something that I was involved in from the beginning, in the sense of reading the bids and so on, discussions about the project and where it was coming from and why. But it's important to see it as part of a longer strand of work that the WEA has been involved in the East Midlands around digital inclusion. And we've been doing stuff for 10, 15, 20 years around the use of IT, and increasingly through the past 10 years around IT as a skill for living rather than as just a technical skill, but actually how it impacts on people's lives, which I'll come back to. I went to a conference earlier this week at NIACE around digital inclusion, and Ian was there and was asking me what I thought of it. And it did make me think of one or two things that I thought I'd share today. One of them is about the speed of change. And this is where I was doing a little bit of research first. But in 1997, I went to a WEA conference in Manchester. And as part of that national conference, someone was demonstrating this new thing called a graphical browser. And it was the first time I'd seen it. They hooked up gear like this, which in those days obviously didn't work. Some things don't change. The connectivity was a problem, but it involved a telephone wire running through half the building. And the demonstration site they used was the White House at that point had a website and was one of the few organisations that had set up a website. And the highlight of it, because sound and pictures had come through, was to see the picture of the White House cat. And if you clicked on it, it would meow. So I was thinking on the way over here, well, I can't remember the name of the cat. So I thought, oh, well, it'll be easy, I can just research that, no problem, I'll just nip on the internet when I get here and I'll find it out, don't need to prepare in advance. So I was saying to Mike here earlier that what I need to do is look up presidential cats, because I want to remember the name of Jimmy Carter, so we go, President White House cats. Instant web search, there's a website. It's called Love Meow, and it has on it the names of all of the president's cats from Abraham Lincoln. It's true, isn't it?
That is strange.
And then, it wasn't Jimmy Carter's cat, which was called something rather bizarre. It was a Siamese cat, and it was called Wiam Yin Yang. But actually, the cat I was trying to think of was Bill Clinton's cat, which was called Socks.
Yeah, I had that.
And that was the. But I mean, what that session did for me was made me realise that the internet was going to be a real thing. And it's funny how those things, and that's exactly the sort of thing the DAIN project's trying to do, is to hook people into technology to just get one episode. And I went away from that conference, conned the WEA into spending then, I think £150 to get a very slow telephone modem to hook my machine up at work onto the internet. And that was only 15 years ago. The speed and nature of the change is absolutely extraordinary. The types of things that you use it for is extraordinary. What really going back to Thursday was about was that we mustn't remember that it will still change. So what things around the technology side of what we're doing, and digital inclusion for technology, it's not about any moment in time, because, you know, tablets are going to be in before long. They're going to be different and easier to use. Maybe mouse skills will become irrelevant. Maybe they won't be. It's about the nature of, it's about access to the technology itself and an understanding what it can do that's really important, and that's why we engage, and about the way that it impacts on people's lives. Again, people who've been around this for a number of years will know that we went through a phase where we got everyone to get a CLATE certificate, and then 3 years later they'd come back again and they'd do another CLATE certificate because the technology had moved on a bit and they couldn't actually do what they did on the BBC computer. They couldn't do it on a Windows computer, and then they couldn't do it on a Windows computer with Windows 7 or whatever. It's not about the skills, it's about the confidence to engage with the technology and to be able to use it in your everyday life, and that's what DAIN is trying to do through it. Peter's working with them to show it. Sometimes too I get quite negative in these things, and you look at all the barriers and all of the problems. And the other thing I wanted to say really was that actually another reason that an organisation like the WEA engages with these sorts of technology issues is that it can actually be liberating and transformational. Those change moments when you pick up a piece of, someone shows you how to use a piece of technology and it does something for your life, actually can alter your whole life in the way that we know learning can, which is what the WEA is trying to do a lot of the time with the types of programs it does. So I don't want to lose that positive thing that, you know, when somebody realises they can use a flip camera and make a bit of film and share that very easily, and actually it's not difficult. It's not technically skills-wise difficult, it's very easy. Then that becomes often a very liberating thing. Overall, that's what DAIN is trying to address, those types of issues. It's looking at trying to make sure people get access to the technology and understand what it can do for them in their lives, rather than simply technically use a mouse, use Excel, use Word. It might be that. And it's also not solely about vocational skills, which is the way the agenda's going. It's not about solely getting a job. It's about changing people's lives. The final thing, I suppose, is this is in a continuum of... final thing, did you notice that? The final thing in the continuum is about going back to the beginning. This is sort of work that the WEA has been involved in for 15 years. There will be more projects that follow DAIN. At the moment, it looks likely that we can't use Skills Funding Agency money to match and continue the project as it stands in an extension. There are other people that we've been talking to about ways of doing it, and we are optimistic that we'll put in place follow-up projects, which might or might not be European funding. It depends how the stuff goes through. But what I wanted to say is that we're still committed really to developing types of work like this, and that should go perfectly to go with Pearl, who's going to talk about the volunteering dimension, I suspect.
Thank you, Mike.